New tonight, Ronnie Hyde's arrest for murder in connection with a dismembered torso found in a dumpster in '94. It shocked the Jacksonville Beach community he called home. Neighbors rarely saw Hyde, and he didn't accept visitors. But once his story went public, tips began to flood into the FBI. First Coast News' Julia Janae joins us with those recently declassified leads and what they say about this former youth pastor accused of having a very dark side.
That's right, Jessica. On March 7, 2017, authorities would use billboards and the news media to ask for any information on accused cold case killer Ronnie Hyde. What they received were very unsettling accounts from coworkers, friends, some information that was over 2 decades old.
State Attorney's Office released unclassified tips on Ronnie Hyde from the FBI. Call notes from one tipster said they remembered seeing Hyde take victim Fred Laster to movies and buy him gifts, telling the FBI they always knew something wasn't right with Ron. 2 co-workers called in, telling agents Hyde told water cooler stories about laying in bed with minor boys in his underwear and going to TPC Sawgrass to meet young boys. 2 separate tipsters told officials Hyde would go to the YMCA only to shower and not to exercise. He reported seeing naked boys in the locker room. These tips, while disturbing, former FBI agent and current private investigator John Nason says they don't hold much case value.
There's a lot of things that strike us potentially as peculiar, and something just doesn't seem right, but falls short a potential killer or sexual predator.
He's not surprised these informants didn't report anything to authorities at the time they happened.
And they should take note of something that they think is just not right and follow their instinct.
Some information only seems relevant now. A neighbor recalled an awful smell coming from Hyde's backyard. Investigators would find squalid conditions inside and later demolish the home as a hazard.
Now, Nathan tells me if there were any victims who did come forward, that information would likely be protected by the FBI and not released at this time. Hyde remains in jail with his next hearing scheduled for August 27th. For First Coast News, I'm Julia Janae reporting from the newsroom.